The gentleman from Texas, Mr. O'Rourke, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the minority leader. Mr. O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's great to be here tonight. I just traveled with my good friend, close colleague, and fellow Texan, and your fellow Texan, Will Hurd, who started with me in San Antonio, Texas, yesterday at 7 a.m. San Antonio time, where we, because of the inclement weather on the East Coast, and because of his canceled flight and the possibility that mine might also be canceled, we decided to rent a car in San Antonio and drive it to here, to Washington, D.C. in time for votes this evening that start at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And that road trip in a Chevy Impala rented in San Antonio took us from San Antonio to Austin, to San Marcos, to Dallas, to Waco, to Texarkana, and then into Little Rock in Arkansas, over into Tennessee, cities including Memphis, Nashville, and Johnson City, and then through Virginia. 36 hours total, 31 of them either driving or at a pit stop, fueling up on gas or grabbing a sandwich. Mr. Speaker, really two reasons to do this. One was to make sure that we could get to work and not allow the weather, delays, or flight cancellations stop us from doing the jobs that we were elected to do on behalf of the people that we represent. But the other reason was for a Democrat and a Republican to get together, get to know each other, understand the issues before this Congress from each other's perspective, and see if we couldn't find some common ground. And in addition, because each of us so deeply believes in transparency and accountability, we allowed the people that we represent to join us on that trip. And we live streamed the entire journey on Facebook Live with thousands of people from all over this country submitting their questions, their comments, their suggestions, their advice, their guidance, including where to get the best donut at midnight in Memphis, Tennessee, which turns out to be Gibson's Donuts, where Mr. Hurd from Texas and I had a chance to meet some of the folks who make those donuts and some of the folks who eat them. One of the best parts of the trip. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm just so grateful that there is an opportunity, despite the deep divisions between our two parties at times, and despite the imperative to raise money, to campaign, to spend time away from each other, understandably with our families or listening to our constituents back in our home districts. Mr. Speaker, I'm so grateful that we had a chance to spend some time together getting to know each other, getting to talk about the issues that are important to the people we represent and to this country at large. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to yield to my friend, the gentleman who represents the 23rd Congressional District of Texas, Mr. Hurd.
I'd like to thank the Speaker and I thank the gentleman from Texas for yielding time. One of my favorite quotes is from Teddy Roosevelt. He says, "Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat." The gentleman from Texas and I had a great 31 hours, I guess 36 hours, 31 of it being in a vehicle. And it was fun. It was like going on a road trip with my buddy, having a good time, but it was more impactful for that. It's actually, I think I'm going through separation anxiety. I want to know what Sarah's doing right now, or Carol. All right, they were with us late last night in the hours of our trip when we were tired and hungry and ready to go to sleep. But these are folks that we didn't know, and I didn't even know what part of the country they were in that kept us going, and it was because of their excitement about what we were doing that kept us going. We talked many times about how this was an opportunity, and in the press and the media, we focus on the things that divide us, not the things that unite us. And it was a great opportunity to show that there's a lot between Republicans and Democrats that bring us together. It was great. We didn't always agree. And we showed that we could disagree without being disagreeable. And my heart was warmed by, at the beginning of the trip, some of the responses to our trip were mean-spirited. But by the end of it, I think people understood and recognized what we were trying to do, and they value that. And I hope that this trip and the response that the American people across these great states showed as an example to our colleagues that bipartisanship is a real thing, that people care and want to see folks working together to stop retreating to their tired corners and instead try to talk about what we need to do the work of the American people. So I got to learn a lot about the gentleman from Texas, a person I like to be able to call my friend, my battle buddy now, having spent so much time in a Chevy Impala with him. I still question why he positions himself so close to the steering wheel when he drives, but I think that's one of those things that another trip may have to help figure out. But really, to all of those that watched and listened and shared and enjoyed and made comments, thank you, because this was a truly wonderful experience, and it made the entire trip worth it. We made it on time. We actually got here early, which we weren't expecting. That's because of my good friend from the great state of Texas, discipline and tenacity when it comes to going from point A to point B. We were able to do our job today, and we just want to say thank you to those that helped us to do that. And with that, I'd like to yield back to my friend from the great state of Texas, the gentleman from El Paso.
Mr. Speaker, our journey began after picking up the car at the rental lot at 5 a.m. With the breakfast at Mi Tierra Cafe in San Antonio, where we were presented by the staff there with this piñata, which became our mascot along the way. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to make sure that you and my colleagues tonight have a chance to see this. And on the perhaps the more whimsical side, there was some discussion amongst my friend from Texas and those who joined us on the journey virtually through the live stream about trying to encourage more members of Congress from both sides of the aisle in a way that would allow them to take time with each other, to get to know each other, to listen to each other, and yes, to talk about serious policy issues, but also to find out a little bit about who they are, where they came from, what excites them about their service, their families, the communities that they represent. And that allows for what I hope will be a more close and productive and effective working relationship on behalf of the people we serve. It's interesting that despite the obvious talent, Mr. Speaker, in this chamber, the members that I've had the pleasure to get to know over the last 4 years that I've been here, who hail from all parts of the country, from all backgrounds, who are among the best and brightest in their communities, who are here to do the right thing, to deliver for their constituents, and to put this country first. It's interesting that despite that, we haven't been able to get many of the big things accomplished for this country. We can think about things like comprehensive immigration reform, or comprehensive tax reform, for that matter, or educational and health care reforms that are going to impact every single family and every single one of the communities that we represent. I think part of the reason is that we need to reform the institution itself, and those reforms could take the form of comprehensive campaign finance reform, or ending gerrymandering of districts and having a national congressional redistricting committee that is nonpartisan, that draws those lines on rational, logical bases. Or we could have term limits for members of Congress so that you can't serve in what turns out to be perpetuity for the political life of a community, and have some faith in the talent and the leadership that is produced in that community that we all represent. But those are things that are going to be tough to do. Let's admit it. Some of them require amendments to our Constitution. Where we could start, Mr. Speaker, is just spending some time with each other, taking a road trip, playing a game of basketball, going out on a run, having a cup of coffee, having lunch together. As my friend from Texas says, too often we're in our own corners. And on our side, maybe that's in meetings about how to message those good things that we want to do for the American public, or outside of this chamber and away from our official responsibilities, raising the resources in order to get reelected or to get our colleagues from the same party reelected. Those are understandable and yes, I think necessary things to do, but sometimes we do them to the exclusion of what I think is even more important and necessary, and that is getting to know each other, being able to work with each other, and solving the problems and capitalizing on the opportunities that face this country. And, for whatever it's worth, 36 hours later, I feel like I have the opportunity to do that with my friend from Texas. Now, what I would like him to do, if he would, is to share with us and with you, Mr. Speaker, some of those issues that we talked about, and some of the takeaways or the conclusions or the things that we could share and that we learned. And I'm going to tell you at the outset, to set your expectations, we didn't solve all of these problems, and we didn't even come necessarily to common agreement on all of the big issues. But we definitely heard each other's perspective. In some cases, we definitely moved a little bit in the positions that we started with. And I'll say that I learned a lot. I learned a lot about Mr. Hurd, his background, his perspective, getting to talk to his dad, his sister, and his brother, who all called in while we were traveling across the country. But I learned about those things that shape his views on the issues that he and I both care about, and why in some cases he sees a different means to getting to the same goal that I want to get to, that the people that I represent want to get to. So a number of issues that we tackled and discussed. I'd like to yield to my friend from Texas to share some of those with you, Mr. Speaker.
I'd like to thank the gentleman from Texas for yielding again. The gentleman from Texas and I have spent the last 2 years working on a number of projects together. We've worked on the bilateral relationship between the United States and Mexico. We've worked on border security together. We've worked on trade. We've worked on support to veterans and those in our military. But in the last 36 hours, I learned that there is a broader set of issues that we can work together. He got me to a point where I recognize that something like a hiring freeze may not be the most efficient way. I think one of the folks that were watching the live feeds over the last 36 hours said, let's use a scalpel rather than a sledgehammer. And I think that's pretty good advice. And he recognized that having the ability to get someone out of the government who's not performing to the level that we need them to perform needs to be done in an efficient and quick manner. And so this is one example of how our positions, we realize we agreed on more than we probably thought on the outset. The gentleman from Texas prides himself and has been really a champion of veterans in the great state of Texas, as well as the rest of the country, and hearing him talk about that. The only time I saw him get a more passionate look or a bigger smile on his face was when he was talking about donuts or his wife, actually. Seeing him talk to his lovely wife and his children and see that his face light up was really amazing and heartwarming. So I hope that our colleagues learn that what we found out in the last 36 hours is that working together is not a dirty phrase. Bipartisanship is not a dirty word, that people are going to actually reward you for thinking and reaching beyond your perceived limits. That's one of my takeaways from the last 36 hours. So if y'all live in New York, the state of New York, instead of taking a plane back, rent a car. Dollar Rent-A-Car has some pretty good Impalas, some Chevy Impalas, and drive back to New York City together and talk about these conversations. If you take a train, sit next to each other and have that conversation. Include the folks that are sitting in the chairs around you if you feel so inclined. These are the first steps we can do in order to take on these big issues and these big challenges. When the 435 people in the House of Representatives raised their hand and got sworn in, and the 100 members of the Senate raised their hands and got sworn in, they took on this task of coming to this august body in order to do big things. To help this country. I don't doubt that the 535 people that make up this Congress believe that this is truly the greatest nation in the world, and they want to do everything they can to advance its cause. And so we have to, if we're going to solve these big problems, we have to do it together, plain and simple. The American people want us to do it together. And I think we got a taste of that over the last 36 hours, and it's something that will stick with me, and it's something that I'm looking forward to working with the gentleman from Texas and the great city of El Paso in the next days and weeks. So it truly was one of the things that I've learned from the gentleman from Texas was he's very good at thanking people. He's very good at thanking his team. He's very good at thanking people that had helped us. And I want to thank our teams, the folks that make up the gentleman's staff and my team. They stayed up longer than we did. They had to deal probably with more pressures than we did. And, Rachel Holland in my office, Nancy Pack, Stoney Burke, Matthew Haskins. These are folks, Callie, I know in her new position, worked really hard to get things done. Chris Malin, one of the new members of my team. Austin Agrella did so much, and they were excited to be a part of this. Eliezer is someone that was so excited. I think the first person we saw when we got back. These are our people that enabled us to take away these lessons over the last 36 hours. And to those that watched, that shared, that asked a question, that responded or answered a question for us because the feed was going too fast, thank you. Thank you for an amazing experience. And I'm looking forward to the next trip. And hopefully there's one before the Congress Cannonball Run of 2018. And I think that it's incumbent upon the gentleman from Texas and I to be a team again and see if there's others that can beat us in a race from San Antonio, Texas to Washington, D.C. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to hold this special session. This is my first time participating in a special session, but I think it was justified for such a special occasion that means so much to me. And I'd like to thank the gentleman from Texas for his firm grasp on the steering wheel. His willingness to go and do things that hadn't been done before, and for his friendship. And with that, I'd like to yield back the balance of my time to the gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, I will conclude by joining my colleague from Texas in thanking the teams that made this possible in our office, led by David Wysong, my chief of staff, by John Meza, who manned the communications, Samantha Stiles, Chief of Logistics, also known as our scheduler, and everyone who works with them, Cynthia Cano, our District Director back in El Paso. And as my friend says, I also want to thank the thousands, tens of thousands of people who participated in this over the course of the last 36 hours. And I also want you to know, because some folks tuned in and then had to tune out. They had to go to work, take care of a kid, get some sleep, or they were just bored by what we were doing. But they understood that the premise was that we were not able, or in Will's case, the gentleman from Texas's case, Mr. Hurd, that his flight was canceled into Washington, D.C. because of the weather. I feared that mine might as well be, that we rented a car, and that we had to be in Washington, D.C. after leaving San Antonio at 7 a.m. by 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday in order to be there and vote and represent the interests of our constituency. And you know, if we were to be honest with each other, it was touch and go for a little while. We ran into a 2-hour pileup just south of Waco when we were still in Texas. My friend from Texas also has a penchant for getting to know a town and wanting to spend some time in a coffee shop talking to the owner about the art of making coffee and the philosophy that accompanies that. A fascinating conversation, to be sure, but added precious minutes that I and many of our viewers felt like we could not spare. And yet, working together, balancing my friend's natural curiosity and interest in the communities in which we were traveling, and my desperation to get to Washington, D.C. in time to cast our votes, we were able to arrive 36 hours total travel time. We're able to arrive with almost 30 minutes to spare, which, if you consider the context, the amount of hours, the 1,600 plus miles traveled, that's a remarkable feat. And look, I don't want to take too much from this, but I think we might be able to find some encouragement that two members working their way across the largest state in the lower 48, and then through Arkansas, Tennessee, and Virginia, were able together to make decisions necessary to ensure that we were able to get to our destination in time, get our job done, and represent those people that we serve. And that, for some reason, Mr. Speaker, was interesting to people. We had thousands watching us, newspapers following, broadcast stations carrying the feed from our car. Why? Because, and it shouldn't be this way, this is such an unusual event for a Republican and a Democrat not to file a bill together. That happens fairly often, and I'm grateful for that. But to sit down and enjoy each other's company, learn from each other, and take on the challenge of driving these 1,600 miles together. And I did not know my friend from Texas as well as I do now, 36 hours later, and didn't know how this was going to turn out. Were we going to be able to stand each other's company? Were we going to be able to take each other's driving? Were we going to be able to make the compromises necessary to decide where to eat, when to stop, when to sleep, and how to get there? And imperfectly, and yet satisfactorily, we were able to do that, ultimately, get here on time. And we both thought, as we finished votes this evening, because we got here in time to cast those votes, we went back to our office to thank our staffs. As we were doing that, we thought we owe it to each other, to our colleagues with whom we work, all 435 of us, to say that both of us want to do everything we can to build on this experience, to share it with you, to thank those from the constituencies that we represent and from across the United States who shared that journey with us, and who ensured that we had our seatbelts on, that my eyes were on the road, that we were able to get some sleep in Nashville. I want to thank everyone who had a part in this, and I just want to thank this chamber and those who sent me here for this very high honor of being able to serve. It was really an amazing experience, and I'm going to use it to the best of my ability to serve my constituents, to the best of my ability and make common cause with as many of my colleagues that are here in this chamber. Mr. Speaker, I want to yield again to my friend from Texas.
I'd like to thank the gentleman for yielding, and I wanted to add a thank you to a couple more people. I'd like to thank my girlfriend, Lindley Wallace, for being supportive of many of my shenanigans. She supports me in these efforts, and I'm grateful for that. I'd like to thank Tyler Lowe, John Arnold, and my district staff, because it wasn't for them, we never would have kicked off at 0700 from Mitietta Restaurant. And so they got us on the right path. And so it truly has been a good time. I think the gentleman from Texas and I are ready for some shut-eye. And I do not know how many times a special order has been done between a Republican and a Democrat. We'll have to ask the parliamentarian after this question. But hopefully, this is the first of many. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Speaker and yield back to the gentleman from Texas.
I want to again thank my friend from Texas for joining me tonight on the floor of the House, for his words and for taking a chance and driving across much of the country with me to get here and make sure that we could fulfill our responsibilities, and not just the immediate responsibility of getting here in time to vote, which we were able to do, but our responsibility to find a way to work with each other across party lines and address the important issues before this country that are going to be critical for this country's future success and the well-being of those that we represent. Mr. Speaker, I don't think it's any accident that the Speaker pro tem tonight is also from Texas. I think this is a good moment for our state. I think this is a good moment for this Congress. I think this is a chance to strengthen the institution, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve here. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Does the gentleman from Texas have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I wish to adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned till 10 a.m. tomorrow for morning hour debate.